So my dream was weird. I had a dream that I was tasked with the job of taking pictures of like real world places for a TV show.
Yeah.
They told me I couldn't work on the show, but I would have to take pictures of places for the show.
Right.
And then,
No, please go ahead. Continue to explain.
And then when I was out and like taking pictures, I got lost and I got really scared. And then I met a god, not like a Christian god, just like a god on the subway.
A pagan god, yeah.
Maybe pagan. And she was like, "Hey, well, we're also lost. We're going to like the god station, but we can show you to the normal station." And I woke up.
I think you did have a prophetic dream. I think that's what happened.
No, a prophetic dream of fucking what? Like of what? Like I don't know. Because I think it's because I was watching something I think the other night about like someone making a video game like, oh yeah, we went to like not Seattle but Seattle and took pictures of the place before we made the game or some shit. And I was like, I guess my brain was like, ooh, that sounds like a fun job to have. Here you go. I don't know.
Yeah. What game? What city would you go to take pictures of for a thing?
Philadelphia.
Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think Philadelphia is such an underutilized location for television and stuff across the board.
Rocky.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Rocky. No, fuck you. It's not just Rocky. Philadelphia is just like, it's a good city because it's like a shithole, but it's like not.
Okay, I love that you were like, yeah, they don't utilize Philadelphia enough, and then I'm like, use an example of like, haha, this is the only one I can think of, and you're immediately like, fuck you, they use it all the time.
Because I love Philadelphia. It's a great place. I don't know. I think across
they don't use
the board,
Auburn, New York enough. You know, they need to get more Auburn and New York representation on TV. Stay calm and keep things in perspective. Isaiah 11:16. On this week's episode of Cartoon Buffoons, I am Wyatt, and who is here with me today, as always?
Hello, I'm Morgan, and if that would be pine or birch, tomorrow is Eastern Orthodox Church. Sorry, I didn't really have a good bit for this episode. My bad.
Yeah, that's okay. Who is our very special guest for today's episode?
Toby Jones, filmmaker. Is she polishing a gun?
We're here to talk about AJ Goes to the Dog Park, which is not a Cartoon Network thing. I know, everybody. Hold on. Shh. Hold your horses. This is an April Fool's episode. So,
yeah.
We tricked you. This isn't okay. We didn't trick you. I actually literally did forget that we were doing this episode in the last episode and said that we'd be doing Ben 10. But now it seems like it's a really funny trick and a rug pull. And
we love to lie to our audience. That's what it's about. That's what making things about lying.
And I could have gaslit you into thinking that I had this as a master plan this whole time. But no, this is just it's a good idea that popped into my head, and I wanted to talk about this movie because, you know, it's been a while since we had Toby on. I think you were on literally for like the Space Ghost episode, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like one of the first episodes way back, almost 2 years ago at this point. So it's good to finally have you back on to talk about the show or this movie that you may or may not have some connection to.
Happy to be back. I've heard of the film.
Yes, I've heard of it too. Heard of this AJ fellow, you know, this guy, this Fargo, North Dakota place, this mythical location. But no, for real, you're the director of this movie. And I guess we should ask you some questions. We should be a little bit professional on this podcast. We shouldn't just dick around. But, you know, Well, how did this movie come about? How did the idea of it come about? Like, where was the genesis point for this movie?
Good question. The genesis point of the movie is the star, AJ, who's a friend of mine who I met in, I guess, 8th grade or something. And, we were always making stuff on the weekends in high school. We made local access shows and stuff like that all the time.
Cool.
And AJ was actually like not that involved in a lot of that stuff at first. He was kind of like he was like a friend who I would see at school and was like friend of friends a little bit. But he became more and more. We got closer and closer, and it became a joke about like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we made a movie about AJ of all people?
Right.
Wouldn't that be funny? It was like. Because we were getting ready to go to college, and we were like, how about the last project we make is a movie where AJ is the main character? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Yeah. And so we wrote this movie called AJ Goes to France, and we shot it in our senior year of high school and then through the summer before college. And the thing that we discovered through writing that movie and shooting that movie is that AJ is a terrific main character for a movie. And writing it was like this effortlessly fun experience, and so from there, I just became like addicted to writing this AJ character and trying to do more with him. And so within a few years, we were like, okay, now we're going to write the second AJ movie. It's called AJ Goes to College. And we wrote this entire screenplay for AJ Goes to College. We tried to get like a grant to fund it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
No, of course, nobody was really interested in funding that project. And if I hadn't gotten hired to go work at Cartoon Network, there's a chance we would have tried to make it. We would have tried to figure out some zero budget way to do it. But what happened instead was that I moved to LA in 2011, and I work at Cartoon Network where I make a pilot about a character named AJ. And I develop a couple different versions of that show with Cartoon Network. And then once that kind of dries up, at that point I've been in the industry for like a decade. And OKKO is like ending, and what's happened is that like the faucet is turned off as far as like, oh, I go to work every day and I make something that is going to come out in an X amount of time, and that kind of like very satisfying loop of like, I'm making something, I'm releasing something, I'm making something, I'm releasing something. So I started having this thought, and I'm working in development, which is a lot more about making something, changing it, trying to sell it. And so I'm getting pretty, I'm having a really good time, but I'm also getting a little restless because I'm not being able to release anything. So that combined with the end of OKKO, I just start writing this script kind of for fun. And I have this idea like, oh, maybe I'll get back together with the old Fargo group and make a movie with AJ, kind of take all of our experiences and put them into a new AJ project. And I write that script for like nights and weekends. It takes about a year because I'm just going to it when I feel like it.
Wow.
And just when I kind of am in the mood to write it. And I'm not pressing myself to finish it in any amount of time or anything like that. And it's just whenever I have an idea that makes me laugh, or I just feel like sitting down and making myself laugh. And the process of writing it was very much like trying to return to a childlike sense of ignoring any rules. Because working in the industry for a decade, it's like there's one thing I know, it's like all the rules about like how things should and shouldn't be. So I was like trying to reconnect with that more of a raw instinct type of feeling. Anyway,
I think that comes through. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. So I finished the script, and again, I'm like, maybe we can convince some people to fund this project. The answer to that is no. So after a pretty short period of time, I'm like, well, I'm already trying to sell stuff for my day job. I don't want to also be trying to sell this. So let's just see if we can make it in Fargo for as little money as physically possible. And there's your genesis. There's the genesis of AJ Goes to the Dog Park. Any questions?
Ooh, a couple. Well, first of all, I guess just more of a statement than a question here. But I did feel like this time around, because I'd seen the movie before, I did a video on it. I was starting to realize how much a lot of the things in the movie were maybe paralleling your experience as a creator. And going from that, like, here's my job, I do this, because you were working from what did you come on, like season 2 or 3 of regular show? So like pretty early on in that show, worked for a while, went on to make your own show, worked on that for a while, had like a general, a steady job and maybe an industry that now is kind of volatile, but, back then was less so. And then that like shift and that change to your routine is mirrored with AJ, like in the movie being like, okay, I lost it's something really stupid and minor, but it's in a wider sense. I felt like, oh, was this maybe mirroring your own emotions, that you were going through about that? And then like, other moments in the movie sort of line up with that as well. Am I onto something, or am I just completely off base assuming that?
There's definitely something there, and I think that part of the fun of a project like AJ, because I'm trying not to overthink it, and I'm trying just to kind of do what's making me laugh at any given moment. You start to discover these like dots connecting without you even consciously connecting them. And so I got into a place where like I was writing this story at first fairly, just like, oh, I'm putting AJ in a position and giving him a goal like I would with any episode of regular show or KO or whatever. But as the process went on, of course, it's like at first unconsciously and then at a certain point very consciously, I am speaking to my own experiences, because it's like something that silly. It's really fun to give it a little bit of a real emotional grounding behind it. And I think that beyond all the things that you're saying here, which I think do apply, the biggest thing is that it's really about the time before that and then coming out on the other end of it, where it's like, what happens when you dedicate your life to something the way that I dedicated my life to making cartoons, when you do that, there are consequences. And what does it feel like to notice that suddenly all this time has passed when you were so focused on, your life had a very strong purpose, and then you notice all this time has passed, and then it's like, okay, well then what? And that's the third act of the movie, of course. Yeah. So.
Yes. Yeah. I felt that too with like, there's a line from, I think it's from AJ Jr., where he's like, you can't just expect to become, like, reconnect with these people the exact moment it's convenient for you. Which is, like, a funny, very true line in a movie that is otherwise so silly. And it's something that I thought about a million times, where it's like, oh, yeah, there's people that I've kind of lost contact with, or we've, like, drifted apart for one reason or another. And like trying to build that bridge again when I feel guilty about it is not always like, I get frustrated because when you try it and then it doesn't work, you get frustrated like, well, what is their problem? I tried, when it's like, well, maybe they're not ready, or they don't feel the same way or whatever.
I was having a great time. I had like a very drastic career change in my life as a person. So I was kind of like, this is well documented. I like worked in fine dining and like restaurants that like going for stars kind of restaurants. And and I stopped doing it because I like woke up one day like, oh yeah, this is killing me and I'm not having fun anymore. Which isn't inherently true. It's complicated, but whatever. So going through this, I was like, wow, we've all been a mayor in a way. And it was so strange to go from, like, funny jokes movie to, like, going, fuck, man. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I was, like, I very much, like, woke up. I was like, okay, so there's no way I'm going to be able to sustain my relationships I have and also trying to be someone who owns a restaurant one day. Because everyone I ever worked for is just like, hey, by the way, this is it. You will never have a life again. And I was like, hell yeah. And I was like, actually, not hell yeah. That sucks. That sucks.
It's funny. Yeah, some of the themes we're talking about also might apply to a potential future project. But when it comes to all of these elements within the AJ movie, that last section of the movie, which is very structurally strange, the idea that the movie has a built-in like false climax. 2/3 of the way through, and then the third act is actually this other thing that's like kind of a misdirect or an inversion of the thing. It's like, it is what it is. It's an experimental structure, but that third act, I really labored over a lot trying to figure out, because that was the point where it's like, okay, what is the movie? We have to make sure that what we're saying is coherent and like something that I really feel. And so like once we established this like 15 years later element, you know, I talked to a lot of like friends, you know, we did like table reads or, you know, and got advice where it's like, what do we do here? You know, there were versions where there was time travel where he like goes back and fixes it and stuff like that, or different types of things. And at the end of the day, it's a thing where it's like, you know, this is the silliest movie in the world, but you know, I do want to show that there are consequences, you know? And it's he has consequences. He can't just walk it back, and he has to figure it out. And like the movie stays silly or whatever, but like his life is forever changed, and he has to like, he's able to pull the pieces together in the end and kind of make good. But it's like not necessarily a simple, easy, fast process either. Which is an interesting thing to be kind of saying while you're also trying to overwhelm the audience with as many jokes as possible.
Yes, yeah. I think that's. I mean, we're kind of just jumping all over the place. We're not going to be going through this like linearly, but yeah. That I think that's a lot of the reason why that third act works is because it all kind of clicks into place. Stuff that has been hinted throughout the whole movie, but it makes it very clear that this was going somewhere, which isn't necessarily like. I don't know, it wouldn't be the end of the world if it didn't really go anywhere, but I always appreciate it when my stupid comedy also has a point to it, as opposed to just being toothless, you know. In my opinion, like, things don't always have to have, like, this very explicit message. In fact, as we were talking about before we were recording, one of the things that I really love about the series Adventure Time, which we just got done laboring over for 4 weeks, is that a lot of times the episodes just kind of end when the conflict is over, or when, like, you know, the story comes to a conclusion. It doesn't need this like bow on it where everybody apologizes to one another and, you know, explains the moral out loud as the sensitive music is playing in the background. Now, obviously, I don't hate shows that do that. We watch a lot of kid shows for this show, obviously, but I appreciate there's a certain style that tends to come with a lot of this Cartoon Network stuff that doesn't really lean on that as a wrap up for episodes. Even in like more modern shows like OKKO or Craig of the Creek, they don't really like nail in that moralistic lesson. It's more kind of massaged into the fabric of the thing that they're watching, and I feel like that's true here, not only because, you know, like, obviously that a third act is hinted at throughout the movie, but also because the actual conclusion of the movie is what it is. So, you know, it's like, it's hard to say that it ends with like this moral lesson that AJ, you know, learns something. It's more like, anyway, here's this big stupid action scene at the end.
I remember so vividly. I was watching it and having a great time, and my partner was there, like, reading on the couch, I think. And just like when we got to the end with like all the fighter plays and everything, he was like, "What's even happening anymore?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
fair question."
Like, what a fantastic fucking question. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think one of my favorite things about creating when it is disconnected from the toil that is trying to sell something or trying to get blank thing funded for blank is that when you just create to get that energy out, to just like kind of release that valve you have, it's impossible not to put in some of your own, not heartache, you know, but like what's happening to you in it. And I think that's like some of the cleanest, best things on earth is when that happens, when you're just like, yeah, like it's impossible for like to like write a stand-up set or to write jokes online or shit posts or whatever without just like a little bit of what's happening in your brain out there. Cause like the human brain's not that easy to disconnect it, you know, like from like what's funny versus what's happening to you. And fuck, I just love that kind of stuff. I love it whenever something's created to be created in a lot of ways, you know?
Yeah, I think we should all be making things that nobody asked for all the time.
Yes.
And like, yeah, and so the character of AJ, you know, I've been returning to this character throughout my life, and so almost like by necessity, his character, his demeanor, his way of like existing in the world is pretty different from mine. But it's like a prism with which I'm like reflecting these different periods of my life. Now we've gone from something we made when I was 18 to now something that we made when I was in my mid 30s, and so it's like, it's just something that, it's just fun to have, where it's like, okay, every X number of years we get back to this character and consciously and unconsciously we're reflecting these periods in our lives.
Excuse me for sneezing. But yeah, I did want to ask. Yeah, I know that was really fucked up of me. But I wanted to ask about AJ. Like, as far as I recall, like he was there for that pilot back on Cartoon Network. Like he voiced that character. Did the other people that they were based on, were they all voiced by the respective like Fargo, North Dakota people?
No, the pilot was an interesting case because again, we're talking about a character named AJ in a world that's similar to this world, in a world that's similar to the world that you see in the movie or something like that, and characters with the same names and all that stuff. Right. But what it came down to at that time when I made the pilot was, we auditioned for everybody. We got hundreds of auditions for AJ. And I eventually was kind of like, look, I want AJ to play AJ. He's AJ, and like it's not going to be it's not going to be as funny if someone else plays AJ. If it sounds more like a normal cartoon voice, that's not going to be as funny. And there were a couple auditions that were like pretty darn good, honestly. But at the end of the day, I still wanted AJ to play AJ. And so, talking with the network about it, they were like, okay, we will let you have AJ play AJ. They actually at one point wanted me to play AJ because they'd heard me pitch it so many times. And I was like, I prefer if AJ did it. And so they were like, if you want AJ to play AJ, we're willing to give that a try, but we'd really like it if then you got slightly bigger names in the other major roles of the show. And so that's why we have Mae Whitman playing Morgan, and we have Chris Parnell playing AJ's dad and stuff like that. And that's like a thing where it's that was just them kind of being like, let's balance that scale. And what's funny is when you watch that pilot, it has a really funny way about it, because it's like we have AJ who's this like normal guy, and then everybody else is an extremely experienced cartoon actor. And I gotta say, the day we recorded that thing, it was so sweet because like AJ was like a little bit nervous and Mae Whitman was like coaching him through it, everybody was really cool and nice. And again, the funny thing was we brought on Chris Parnell, and then later that year Rick and Morty came out, and so it's like and then suddenly all the comments were like, I can't believe that's Jerry. It's like, hey
he was AJ's dad first.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I love that. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, that's always interesting, like how those timelines match up. But also, like, yeah, the people in the pilot, like, it always felt like it was based on an earnest friend group that actually existed. It's interesting that, like, it kind of makes sense from how you explained it, where like you weren't at first, you didn't become friends with AJ, and then like as time went on, you guys got closer working in AV Club or whatever nerdy shit you were doing, and then now you're taking charge of it. He's kind of become this character in these productions, but you've taken a step back and are purely like in the spot of a director. Or in this movie, you were a cameo for a newspaper like photographer guy. I don't know. I just think that's interesting because a lot of creators would probably like, especially if it's something kind of based on their life or some of their experiences, they would want to cram themselves into it.
Yeah, it's funny because in AJ Goes to France, the original movie, it wasn't Toby, Danny, and it wasn't AJ, Danny, and Morgan. It was AJ, Danny, and Toby. And there was no Morgan character because we didn't know Morgan yet. And so it was Danny and I as like a two group of like a Mordecai and Rigby, and then AJ was like our friend. And then we actually made a follow up to that where it was like me and Danny, and AJ wasn't even in it. And it's like, what I gathered from doing that was I didn't feel like I was that funny on camera. Right. I'm just like, I'd rather look at AJ performing than look at myself performing, that is true though. I tend to, I don't love being on camera. I don't performing isn't my favorite thing it's not my favorite thing in the world to do. Happy to do it. But yeah, I think that like that's accurate. I think that in these situations, I'm very happy to step back and have a just a creative role and kind of be behind the camera as much as I can. Cut to the next, making some movie in the future where it's a vanity project all about me, and I'm like shirtless for half the movie, and like
in a way that's kind of go ahead, Morgan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, you go first. Actually, go first.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of similar to something like Jim Henson. I'm not necessarily comparing you. I'm not saying you're like, my God, you're as brilliant of a genius as Jim Henson, but just the idea that like the Muppets, those are the ones that always take the screen. Even though he's a guy, everybody knows his name, they know his image. When he doesn't really appear in any of the movies or the TV show or anything, it's just Kermit. Or like whomever he would be operating or voicing at that time, so it's like a similar thing where it's like, here's this person, people do know them, but they are not the draw, like, because, maybe they just don't have the on-screen charisma or, the desire or whatever.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like, I can't do the things that AJ does. He has like he has a very natural like charm and a very natural like sense of comedy that's, his on-screen presence is very different from mine. And so and obviously I love it because I keep doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like there's this like Sorry, my cat is just running over my feet while I'm trying to fucking record. There is like this underrated thing that I think exists in a lot of friend groups, or like when you know someone for like more than 5 to 10 years, right? Where you do get, some of your friends become a guy to you in a weird way. We're just like, no one understands how funny this one friend I have is. Like, I think I very much have those friends. I've been told I've been that friend. But like for example, if I had, God forsake, if I had to make a movie, Wyatt Cody has to be in it. Like,
right? No, for sure.
There's a degree where like you're like, guys, I need everyone to understand that I have this one friend who isn't funny in any of the ways that like are marketable, but I have to put him in front of you right now, and I need you to understand it. And I think that's like, it's the best part of making stuff with friends is that like, look, no, seriously, he's so funny. What is he doing? I don't know right now, but it works. Okay, fucking lock in, like.
Well, it's like a form of curation. Like, it's a thing where it's like, oh, I know how to take all of these elements and put them in the correct order to create something fun. Like when we were like, there's a movie I made back in the day where I had a friend who was like a super left wing. This was in the 2000s. Super left wing dude. We had like our friends. It's like, okay, we know kind of who we want to play roles in this thing. And it's like, he's a super left wing dude. It's like, well, let's cast him as a like Bush era conservative. Right. And like, you just know that's going to create like a funny spark. Thing, and it's like, and I think as the years went on, I took more and more pleasure out of really just like contextualizing and curating all of these talents in this way, and like giving them an opportunity to shine, I guess.
Yeah, I did want to ask. So, fuck. Hold on. What did I watch? I had a question in mind.
You gotta get to the vote.
It just completely left my mind as we were just chatting.
It was about.
I don't know. Anyway, so with AJ, like AJ the guy, like we were saying, he's just kind of like a normal, just like a very very normal guy, and Fargo, North Dakota is also like, I know isn't it the capital of North Dakota?
It's not technically the capital, but it is the biggest city.
Okay. But that's funny because it doesn't really look that big compared to somewhere like New York City or LA.
Correct.
Yeah. It just kind of looks like Buffalo, to be honest. It looks like that kind of like, this is like a pretty, maybe there's like a dense downtown area. Was there any like Fargo-isms that you wanted to put into the movie, or that you did put into the movie that like got through? Is there any that like didn't go through that you felt like you either had to cut for time or for convenience, but you wanted to put in there? Was there anything like that? Because it definitely seems like the city in a way is like very much a character because there is a sort of an essential like Midwestern blandness to like the setting and the character of AJ. No insult to either of those things. Obviously, I think it's a good touch, similar to like Joe Pera. But yeah, is there any like Fargo-isms that you wanted to put in, but unfortunately didn't make the cut?
Well, I think that like the Fargo-ness of the movie came from a point where it's like, once we discovered that we would not have money, right? You know, if you have money, you can build a world that's fake, right? Mm-hmm. And because we didn't have money, it's like, well, our choice then is instead to build this movie in reality, you know? And so if we're in Fargo, we want to lean as hard as we can on the real people, places, and things that are there and capture some semblance of the actual reality of Fargo and put that on screen in a way that is not normally seen. And it's the same thing with, like, you know, all the things about the movie where it's like, yeah, we can't afford to make something fake, so instead we're going to do something fake with something real, you know? And so I think to me the biggest piece of Fargo-ness is just the fact that everybody's always drinking big glasses of milk at dinner with all their meals. And that was like a crucial thing. Like anytime there's a dinner scene, everybody's drinking a big glass of milk. And the rest of it, I think, comes in a little bit more naturally because it's like we're just going to all these places and capturing the real people and the real places. You know, I really wanted to have a extended lake sequence, and things like that. The fact that there's a dog park, it's a big flat open place, is an example. I don't think there's any like major Fargo part that like got cut. If anything, we were constantly adding more. You know, and a lot of it was just happening naturally, which is it's part of the character of it, which is a lot of fun. But I think it was important at a certain point where it's just like let's not, you know, let's just lean in as much as we can to the reality of this place where we are. You know,
what was this before or after Taco John's got eliminated?
This was before. Man, during those shoots, like, because we haven't gotten into like the production of the movie very much, but like the way it worked was that I was flying to Fargo for periods of a month or two once a year for 3 years to shoot the movie on nights and weekends because everybody has day jobs, right? Fuck. And so I would be like in my parents' basement as the production hub of the movie, you know, boarding on Jellystone or whatever during the day. And then at night and weekends, we would go shoot, right? And what that meant was there was a Taco John's down the street, and I went probably 2 to 3 times a week to the Taco John's. And that was like my fuel for the entire production. And right around the time, pretty soon after, I think if I remember correctly, it was pretty soon after we finished shooting is when the Taco John's closed down. It could have been actually after the second year of shooting. I'm a little blurry on it now. Fargo is terrible without Taco John's, though. And in fact, Taco John's is now back, I'm told. So next time I'm in town,
nice.
Yeah, we've got some shoots we're hoping to do in the summer, and believe me, I'll be getting Taco John's as much as I can.
Yeah.
It feels like a weird, like, this is my last hurrah, Taco John, like this. I have to be here for this one filming, and then I go quietly to that good night.
Yeah, and like I remember when we went on tour with the movie, I was like driving my car around, and every time I drove by a town that had a Taco John's on the way, I'd pull over and go to that town because at the time it wasn't in Fargo, so it was very important.
Yeah, you sat down, you were crying as you were eating your what are the potato?
The potato olays.
Yes, yeah.
That's
See, I recall the Doughboys episode where they go to Taco John's and they talked mad shit about Taco John's, and I was like, I'm sorry, Toby.
Look, that was tough for me because
going after your boy.
Well, they were talking shit about Taco John's, and they got the exact things that I told Mitch to order. Because I found out they were going, and I texted him, and I was like, hey, if you're going to Taco John's, I got to tell you, here's my favorite stuff to get. And they still had a terrible time. And I can only chalk that up to it being location dependent, because I will say, there are some Taco John's locations that produce truly terrible food. So, you know, I can only say that I was fortunate in my life to have access to good Taco John's, and maybe one day they'll give it another try. But like, it was extra bad because he literally in the episode like name drops me as the person who was responsible for the orders, and I was just like, man, this is brutal.
Cartoon writer Toby Jones decided to,
Well, because Mitch and I famously worked together on an AJ project. We worked. Oh, cool. Yeah, we worked together on. There's a script for an adult version of the AJ cartoon.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about
this.
Years ago.
He was brought on, and him and I collaborated on a script for that. So that's why I was able to tell him what Taco John's items to get to ruin his day.
Right. Yeah.
There's always whenever you get someone gets like a regional or area specific place that they don't have, you recommend it, and they go, "Wow, that wasn't very good." I'm like, "Am I out of touch?" No, it's those motherfuckers that are wrong. I was right. That shit's delicious.
100%. 100%.
For me, one thing, it's not okay. This is a very minor claim to fame, small town boy here, but where I live, there's a popular local pizza chain called Mark's Pizzeria. And I remember being very happy whenever I discovered that there was like a very small meme that was created about Mark's Pizzeria, where it was just that classic tune that I remember hearing in between episodes of Billy and Mandy of "We treat you like your family at Mark's Pizzeria." And then the meme is just basically as soon as the guy starts talking for the commercial, it's like, "Did you know that?" It goes all corrupted and gets all fucked up. I was just I don't know. I'm glad that this, at least Auburn, the mid-state New York, basically the Finger Lakes region, there's at least one thing that escaped containment, and got out there and became a meme with 1 million views or whatever.
I'm adding it to my playlist immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do. But that is I will say, Mark's Pizzeria, as far as pizza goes, it's okay. It's better than. It's a step above a Papa John's, but it's not quite at the level of an actual local pizza place.
I wish I was still normal about food. It'd be so cool. It'd be so cool. Sorry, we're going to get back to it. I do want to ask you about the production. But I remember so vividly when I started going to culinary school, I had a kid cuisine 2 years into culinary school. And I'm like, why does this taste so bad? And my mom said, oh, your palate probably just had gotten to a higher degree since you're working in restaurants and going to culinary school. I said, That fucking sucks. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Why does this kid cuisine taste like shit now? No. I was no, give it back.
I had that same experience with not with kid cuisines, but the Tyson chicken patties.
Yes.
Where after years of being an adult and making my own dinner and things like that, and then just being a functioning adult, and not a lazy teenager that just makes a bunch of chicken patties in the oven. I had them for old time's sake and was like, these are fucking terrible.
This tastes like sulfur. Is this Soylent Green? What the fuck? But yeah, I would have asked. You said it took the course of 3 years, which sounds like doing that on weekends and nights. While it sounds cool, it also sounds like hell.
Yeah.
So how was production as a whole? I guess.
To be honest, it was really, really hard. And at times I felt like I was going completely insane because I'm trapped in my childhood home, and most of the time is spent just waiting for the schedule to align to get the people necessary for the various days. Because the thing with this movie is that, it differs from movies of its similar budget level in that there are a bajillion locations and a quadrillion characters, right? And so what that means is, if we want to shoot this weekend, we need to have X, Y, and Z actor available to go to, X location. And if they don't, we have to sit and wait another week to open up another day. And so a lot of that time was spent waiting and planning for all these stars to align to make it happen, while trapped in my childhood basement, trying to keep myself from going insane. Obviously, I say that's the negative aspect, is that it was incredibly hard, incredibly time consuming. It was also a beautiful thing because we would get together and we'd have these amazing days creating this thing, and everybody involved with the project couldn't have been cooler and nicer. And so it's more about the shooting days I really liked, even though they were stressful. I found them quite stressful, but at the same time, they were great experiences. It was more like the waiting and the planning that was like so difficult. And again, because it's like we probably had between 30 and 40 distinct shoot days on this movie because there are so many different locations. And yeah, it was really, really. I think by the end of that last year, I was like so. I remember talking to my friend Ben, who was a producer of the movie, and we were hanging out in his basement. I think we were watching the movie Heat. He was showing me Heat, which I'd never seen before.
Hell yeah!
And that's an amazing movie. And I was like pretty kind of at the end of my rope. I was just like, man, I cannot wait for this to be done. And he was like, I never want it to be done. He was just like, to me, this is a beautiful thing that we have this thing in our lives that we can go do, and I would love to keep doing it. And I was like, oh, that's a much healthier perspective to have. But yeah, by the end I was so like exhausted because it had taken so long. And keep in mind also, we didn't have any conception that anything cool would happen with the movie. We really thought maybe we would just be making it and nobody would see it.
Holding on to it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so
it's just ours,
it's because, and just to like map out the full timeline, right? Like I started writing it in 2019. I finished writing it in like
right after KO.
Yes, I think I think I might have started like right after KO ended, and at that time I was still working at Cartoon Network with Ian on the Hugh Troop thing, and I was working on another. I was consulting, producing on. I was consulting, producing on another show in development, and then I was also developing my own cartoon at the time. So I was still very busy at Cartoon Network up through past the pandemic.
Oh, man, dude, remember when Cartoon Network used to make cartoons? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's like you're done on KO. Now we're gonna have you involved with 3 different cartoons, trying to make them all happen. And of course, unfortunately, did not work out that way. But that was when that's when I started writing the script. So it was 2019. I finished writing it in 2020 or maybe early 2021. I think early 2021 is actually when I finished writing it, because when we got vaccinated is when we were like, okay, we can get together and try shooting this thing. And so the first shoot was in 2021, and then 2022 and 2023. And then we finished shooting in like early June 2023. And then I spent the rest of the year doing post-production. And also, I'm doing post-production, and Owen is creating his sequence at the same time. And then, and then beginning of 2024 is like when the movie is finally finished.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did, I guess I should ask this. So the ending sequence has the Rebecca Sugar song, and then she recently made an album with a bunch of new songs, and I was wondering if like was she like already in the middle of making that, and you asked like, hey, do you have a song that we can use for this movie? And you're like, yeah, that's good, that one fits, or was the song made in like, were they sort of hand in hand developed together? Like, was it made like with the themes of the movie in mind, or was it like just sort of happy coincidence?
The way that worked was, a lot of my friends here in LA were really, really big supporters of the AJ project, and they were involved at pretty much every step. And so like, we did like early table reads, for example, and because Ian and I were working together after KO on these development projects, we would like take a lunch and go through the script and talk over various elements. And like, he would give me suggestions. Like I think he suggested the idea that the dogs go to college, for example. That was his pitch. And so we did and so they were always in the loop, and we did like a table read where like a bunch of my animation friends were there. And I remember like Rebecca was the voice of Suit Aid 2 at that table read, and everybody was giving suggestions and feedback. And so everybody was always just like checking in and supporting the project however they could, and encouraging its creation. And I remember at some point Rebecca just kind of floated this idea that she could maybe do a song for the movie. Okay. And I was obviously very excited by that idea. And this was before the album. And so what happened was, and again, she might time this out differently if she was describing it, but like, from what I recall, what happened was that, we had like, this was around the time that the first like locked picture edit of the movie existed. And so we had this edit of the full movie going around that friends could see and give feedback on. And her and I had a long conversation about the themes of the movie. And kind of my thought was, I don't want to do a cheeseball song that's about literally the movie, about literally the characters and events of the movie. I'd like to have something that kind of makes you reflect back on the themes of the movie a little bit, in a less literal type of way,
Yeah.
And so we just talked about the themes, and we talked about those a little bit. I expressed how a lot of it had to do with this feeling of what it feels like to lose yourself a bit in a passion and watch as many years pass by and all of that stuff. So those themes were interpreted into that song through Rebecca's own experiences, and from there is the process of making that album. Which a lot of the songs on the album ended up kind of being about the Cartoon Network experience, which Hill to Die On certainly is. And I was really, really excited to have that song there for many reasons, especially because, Owen's ending sequence is so wild that it's really nice to have something afterward that's so sincere and brings the characters in with the images that my friend Caroline Quach made, the little animated bits, to kind of ground things again, where it's like, hey, if you did care about those characters at all, and if you did care about what this movie was saying at all, like here's we're ending on a note that takes those things a little bit seriously, and gives you gives you like a bit of a warm, sweet feeling to kind of go off on.
Yeah, like a nice bittersweet. Like that's why I like how the song ends on a down, kind of like a chiller note. But I also did want to ask, like, there was a music video for that song. Was that produced around the same time as AJ, or did you do that when you were back in LA?
It was much later. Yeah, that was all made. Yeah. That was all made last year. And so this is a thing where it's like this project is like reflecting out in a bunch of different directions, because the movie begat the song, which then begat the music video. And the music video is like a further reflection from the themes. And so it's like, the song is Rebecca commenting on the movie through their prism, and then the music video is like a reflection of the song through a further prism, right? And so we went back and forth a bunch of times on different ways the music video could go, and that was the one that we landed on. And there was definitely like a strong interest in making it feel intentionally like a movie tie-in music video, we thought would be a really funny thing to do, is to do a literal movie tie-in music video with literally shots from the movie in it. And AJ AJ flew out, and AJ flew out to appear in the music video, and turned out really great.
Right.
And
he does like really a fun dance with.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I thought of that because you mentioned doing post-production and everything, and that's sort of like the theme of the music, like the visual of the music video was like this, like night after night, just doing, looking through the tapes.
That's of course a reflection of like late nights. I mean, it couldn't be more clear that like, that's like this is the music video doing an interpretation of late nights at Cartoon Network, working on a show, which we all have experienced many, many, many times.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like maybe unethical, but it also does sound kind of fun in a way, like the idea of being like, because I've been in that position where, because I used to make games with my friend, back at like the end of high school and like the first few years of college before we moved away, we would just make a ton of games like for nobody, for basically just, either on like a shitty Flash website that nobody played or on like Pico 8 or whatever. We just like program and talk and, hash out these ideas and like have these like big elaborate like stories and themes for games that were like 2-minute long games, and we just do that. Like it would be until like 4 a.m. where we'd just be talking with each other about this stuff. And that's what that, like, when I hear about experiences of people like, working on shows and then being there like way too late and then coming home, it's a similar vibe. Like I think that a lot of people maybe have that kind of thing if they're like passionate creatively. They can kind of like get too worked up into it. Obviously, work-life balance, very important. But that to me, like there is like sort of maybe a toxic nostalgia that I have for those kind of nights. And
Oh,
I was reminded of it. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's just a thing that comes with, creating. You will always have that. This was kind of evil, but also I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
Like I remember very much like menu prep and stuff like that with friends. Like, okay, we gotta stay a little later to clean up stuff and get stuff ready for tomorrow. And I'm like, it's 1 a.m. I should be home because I have to be back here at 9 o'clock in the morning. But also, I don't know. I feel a little alive.
Yep,
I shouldn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
shouldn't.
And I think it's like, to that point, it's notable that at the end of the movie, AJ does not say, I regret dedicating my life to this goal. He never says, I wish I could take it back. I wish I had never done that. Because he doesn't. And that's the thing. That's how I feel about dedicating, my 20s to and early 30s. And well, here I am again, dedicating, large portions of my life to making cartoons. It's like, I don't regret doing that. I would make that choice again. I would do it again. It's just a thing that realistically, these things, there are effects of the choices you make. And sometimes you make a choice that you think is the right choice and you're happy you did it, but also undeniably there are effects and consequences to those choices. And so it does land in kind of a nuanced point with that, where it's like, it acknowledging the what you've done, but also being like, and I would do it again. I would make that choice again.
Yeah. It's just such a great thing about being alive. The whole, this wasn't like the greatest choice I could have made, but it was a choice I made, and there's something beautiful about that. I don't know.
This is the
it's
life
great.
I'm living. Yeah, because I watched the Adventure Time special features and stuff, and one of them, at one point, Patrick McHale was talking about like how fun it was for like him and Pendleton Ward and Elizabeth Ito and like all those people from like the very early days who like went from Flapjack, to making that, like just being together and coming up with the stupidest ideas they could think of for episodes and jokes and things like that for the show, and saying that it's like, maybe it like drove them crazy and like burnt them out, but like that they had that passion was real, like what they were doing was real. Again, like it's weird, you don't want to glorify that kind of stuff. You think about like Whiplash or whatever, and that's like the worst possible example of that, because there are some people that look at it and be like, but he did play those drums really good, but like, I don't think it's to that level. And I think like in that example, like, there's just like, they have like a good humor about it. It didn't like ruin their relationship or friendship or whatever. It's just like, we kind of trauma bonded through this, shitty or toxic situation. And then, now things like they're better on the other side. We can kind of just look back and be like, haha, that kind of sucked, but it was also kind of fun at the same time. But I also wanted to add, before I have a couple more questions about the production. First of all, the actors involved, a lot of them, are they people that were like local to Fargo? I know that the mayor was somebody who was like a local theater actor. Were the rest of the people like local theater people, or were they just like, I don't know, like how did you get in contact with some of the other characters that appeared in this movie?
Yeah, a lot of the performers are from the local theater scene. Our cinematographer and executive producer, Tucker Lucas, he was very involved in the theater scene, so he helped a lot with casting when we were trying to fill out the cast. And so, the mayor, the suit aides, Captain C-Stab, these are all local theater performers with a lot of experience. And then a lot of the other roles are filled with non-actors, people we know, and stuff like that. And which I love. And we made very conscious decisions on a role-by-role basis of who should be played by what type of performer, because if we wanted to, we could have gotten very, very experienced actors for every character. We auditioned for a lot of the major characters. We did a line of auditions for them, and we just made like a case-by-case choice for a lot of those. The actor who plays Thomas, for example, that was his first major acting role. He's a local union organizer. who my friend Ben knows from politics, and he had only appeared once in a Heidi Heitkamp commercial as a arm wrestler, shot from behind, and I was like, let's bring him in, let's audition him. And we just loved him, and so we had him play the role. And then there's another scene where like my mom plays a character, and it's just kind of like, I had both my parents in the movie, and they both afterward were like really, it was kind of cute. They were both like really embarrassed. They're like, oh, I wish I'd done a better job. And I was kind of like, hey, if I wanted someone other than you in this role, I would have called someone other than you, you know?
Right.
So the cast is like a really like a menagerie of all types of people from the Fargo world, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like, that's a nice mix, because, I mean, you're shooting on location, so it just makes sense to get those people to come and work on that. And then, but it also makes sense to just be like, all right, this is a very low budget movie. We're going to just have some favors. We're going to have, parents or whatever, like people that are non-actors come in.
Yeah. And sometimes things happen by necessity, where it's like, the two newspaper guys that are me and Tucker, like by that point we had called the cast that was already 30, 40 people deep, and I was just like, let's just you and I do it, especially because they have to pop out of the water. I was like, I don't want to ask somebody to get in the water and do all this stuff. Let's just do it ourselves,
Right.
This is kind of a brutal bit, and I feel better if we just did it. That's really funny.
Yeah. Everybody was such a pro, though. Like the guy who played Captain C-Stab, he's such an amazing actor, and like that was not an easy couple of days for him. Like you think about him in that giant coat. And the way we shot it, like there are so many different shots of that giant coat. Think about the fact that like there's a shot where we see the suit aides POV from behind their shoulder driving up to see him in the giant coat from a boat. What does that mean? That means this guy has to sit in a boat on a hot summer day for a half hour while we get into a pontoon to pretend to be able to do an over-the-shoulder shot where we have the suit aide standing there, over-the-shoulder POV, driving from a pontoon, getting the perfect angle, trying to position it and then get the right speed of them driving up to it. Like, and he just sat there patiently in the sun in that giant coat, like it's kind of crazy. And because again, keep in mind, like every one of these days I was married to my like storyboards for the movie, and so it's like I'm standing there holding the storyboard being like, the size of this thing needs to be exactly to the match the storyboard. And then someone like Jason who played Thomas, like he's this guy, he's like he's a non-actor, and then he still is like bringing in this like great performance, and then between shots being like, can I help? Do you want me to move something? Do you want me to grab something? Like, can I help you guys out? Like, everybody was so generous with their time and energy. It was kind of a beautiful thing.
I think that's that kind of energy. That really is what reminded me of Joe Pera a lot. Not just the Midwest stuff, but like that mix of the non-actors and the people that are more experienced doing it, because you get like very earnest, like kind of crappy, but still like, oh, this has so much, I don't know, it just feels real, or it feels
it feels like a conversation.
This is like perfect, like what it should be.
Yeah, I think that there's there's a built-in sincerity and reality that comes with making a lo-fi project like this. And when I see a movie that has those types of signifiers, I get really excited. And so that when we had to make the choice of like, okay, we're not going to have a budget for this movie. It's going to have to be a noticeably lo-fi, low budget project. I thought about all the lo-fi and low-budget projects I've seen and heard and read and listened to in my life, and I was like, I love these things. I think that there's a type of person who, if a movie doesn't reach a certain degree of comforting competence, they get turned off and don't think it's real or whatever. But that's not like me at all. I love early mumblecore movies. I love, shot on video movies from the 80s and 90s made in people's backyards. I love Motown media films. I love music that is audibly shambled together in someone's bedroom, comics made by, outsider weirdos, all that stuff. And so this to me is just like, yeah, okay, if I'm playing in that playground, I'm happy to play in it.
Yeah. And that being said, there's one big element to it that I feel like is both very lo-fi, but also required an absurd amount of effort. And that's all the miniature work. And was that all done by Owen, or did he have help from like a group of people, or was it just him? Because I know he talks about it in like the special features. Unfortunately, I don't have the DVD for it yet, so I will get to it. But yeah,
that stuff was, I would say, almost completely Owen. Like he had helpers help him for the live action part of that shoot, where he was shooting himself as Kroglock. There was like a small crew of friends that day, but pretty much everything else in that sequence was Owen in his backyard building and blowing up all of that stuff. And it's like, what a gift, and I'm sure you've heard some version of this lore, which is that on the page that scene was like half a page. It was like 3 lines. Kroglock shows up, he says something, and then AJ braces for battle. It's just like a quick, it was just like a little button to end the scene.
Very, very the Mortal Kombat movie style.
It's a direct rip of that. Yeah, a direct, because it was just like, I was trying to think about like what's the right like succession of gags to end the movie on, because you got to keep escalating. So it's like, okay, the movie suddenly becomes a Christmas movie. The movie suddenly becomes a Christian movie, and then we have this thing at the end where this monster pops up, like in Mortal Kombat, or like the final episode of the TV show Angel, of course. And it was just like a one-off gag that was like a funny button to end on. And Owen heard about that, and originally I thought it would be CG. Owen heard about it, and he took it upon himself to do what he did, which meant that I kept seeing more and more and more scenes and shots that I had not asked for. To an almost insane degree. And it was scary at times to be like, what is happening to the end of my movie? And he went insane himself. And he's the first to admit it. That's what his documentary on the Blu-ray is about, is like, he was, I was at a point in my life where I needed to make this movie, and by all costs. And then he happened to be at a point in his life where he needed to dump all of this energy into this wildly, increasingly impossible and ambitious sequence that he was creating. And the two things just combined the way that they combined, And I remember the first time we got a complete cut of his ending, the crew of the movie was like horrified because it was like 8 minutes long, And those who cared about the characters were like, this is like actively upsetting because the characters are gone and we suddenly are being put through this journey. And, obviously, but the thing is that the more they watched it, the more they were like, but this is pretty special that this is here,
This does kick ass. This is fucking cool.
Exactly.
It kind of reminds me of Little Shop of Horrors, like the actual ending of that was like cut out for the... that was like changed because of whatever.
Oh, the big kaiju ending with
so and then it just becomes, it's just like 10 minutes of just this like insane elaborate like kaiju movie stuff going on.
Exactly. And it's like, is that the right emotion awesome. to hit, right? And it's like, well, I'm not going to throw this away. And so like what happened was, what did we do? We trimmed it a bit, and then we added new shots of AJ interacting and commenting on it as it goes, to just to ground it a little bit more into AJ's story, and that was that. And like, I mean, Owen did so much stuff. He edited the music cues of like the wild like stock, new metal over the whole thing. I mean, he created all these explosions are real explosions in his backyard. The lava, this like physical magma that he made, all of these exploding helicopters and the stop motion skeletons. Like it's so amazing, and it's also so funny. But it is the kind of thing where it's like, the movie is already very overwhelming, and so. Yeah. If you're into it, this is a great special gift. I think if you're not into it, you are mad.
Yeah.
I think that kicks ass though. I think that's like some of the best parts. Just like if you're like watching it already and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Someone's like, what the fuck is happening? Why is it still going on? And I'm like, no, this is great. This is amazing. Like that there's nothing better than going, man, did I need all this? No, but I wanted it. But I wanted it. But I wanted it is what was necessary.
Oh, I'm sorry our movie is so generous to provide you with so much different types of joke and so many different types of ideas in 78 minutes. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. You didn't like a Culver's being killed by a giant demon? Well, fuck you then. Like, I also, watching it, I literally screamed, not the Culver's, really loudly when it happened.
Oh my God. And again, I have to be clear. Owen did not tell me he was building a Culver's. He did not tell me he did not tell me he was building 7 scale models of the Fargo Theater that he blew up. He did not tell me any of that was happening. That all happened under cover of darkness. And I got to say though, the first time the movie played was at the Fargo Theater. And so you have to imagine the experience of being in that building and then watching it get blown up. Like it's kind of, the experience is kind of second to none. Like it really is.
That's amazing.
It feels like the Parks and Rec scene where he goes, could a depressed person make this? And a miniature doll of himself. But like it's like, this is all of Fargo. Could a depressed person make this and blow it up? Like,
I strongly recommend watching his Blu-ray extra because that's exactly what it is.
Just like this manic episode that he's having while making it. That's awesome. It feels like that's like I'm reminded of years ago when you guys were on it was like 2018 or whatever, when you guys were on What a Cartoon and talked about the regular show, like stupid anime thing, like the big robot fight anime. What is the name of the episode?
Oh, the Brilliant Century Duck Crisis special.
Yes. And mentioned that like you were just like given a pretty normal outline, but then we're told by JG that like, oh, just go crazy with it, and then like you just suddenly it exploded and became like a 22-minute episode, and then you were doing all these elaborate things, and Owen like worked over a weekend to like animate the entire opening sequence and all of this stuff. It seems like a repeating pattern of just being like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's just do this thing because it would be funny. And then it turns out to be like a way more work, but then you're just kind of locked into it. So you just have to soldier through and make the big, stupid, elaborate thing.
Yeah, and the more work it is, the funnier it gets.
Yes.
That's the thing.
That's true.
And like, look, I just have a fondness for pieces of art that have that feeling of something where someone's like, oh, this may be the last chance I get to make something, so I'm going to dump every single thing I possibly can into this thing. I love things like that. I think about something like Fooly Cooley or, certain types of music. Like I think about like, the first time I listened to like Black Foliage by the Olivia Tremor Control, I was like, oh, they put every idea they had into this. Or the movie Detention by Joseph Kahn, stuff like that. And I just love that kind of thing where it's just like, oh, it's physically impossible to even register everything that happens the first time you experience this piece of art. That's just something I enjoy.
Or drive it like a stolen energy that's really good,
And then also keep in mind when I was editing the movie, I kept editing it shorter and faster and shorter and faster, and people would even say, it's like, please, this maybe needs more air, more oxygen, and I was like, no, I'm gonna keep cutting it shorter and faster and shorter and faster.
I think that this movie, like when you gave me the that sweet ass advanced copy of it or whatever to the preview copy to watch to do for my video, I think it was around the time that Donkey Kong Bonanza came out, right? And then you were upset because you didn't have a ton of time to play the game because you were doing like a tour or promoting the movie. But that's like, I think that game is also just like, it's beautifully self-indulgent in a similar way of like, we're going for it. We just kind of are, we have all these ideas, we're cramming them all into this game to the point where I'm like, yeah, we don't need a 3D Mario. If we don't get one and, for the next few years, that's fine by me. This game was plenty. But yeah, I just know because we were talking about that a lot before the game came out, and all the rumor mill and the conspiracy theories that turned out to be correct of people being like, oh, the Kremlin, look, oh, I found evidence that the Kremlings are definitely in this game, that K. Rool is definitely coming back. So
Bonanza sidebar. I think that Donkey Kong Bonanza is this century's Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, that's a good.
Which is that it's this incredibly talented team of people making a experimental deconstruction of the thing that they're so great at. And so it's like, Yoshi's Island is like commenting on and expanding on and doing all these creative twists on the 2D platformer, which is this form that they've perfected. And I think that that's what Bonanza is doing for the 3D platformer, and so I think it's a true like rough gem masterpiece of creativity. And you're correct though. That game came out while we were on tour with the movie. We did I think it was like a 7-stop tour through the Midwest. And I'd never been on tour before, and I was going insane. And because I was also working full time on a cartoon at that time. And so we would go on tour and I'd be working on stuff during the day, and then we'd have to drive to another city, do a screening, and then I'd go back to the hotel room or Airbnb, and I'd have to be boarding and working and stuff. I was absolutely losing my mind. And then when I got back, I was like, well, I need to finish Bonanza as fast as I can so I don't get further spoilered on the ending. And that was, I wish I had savored it more. I just I wish I'd taken it slow and really savored it.
Yeah.
But I absolutely devoured it as quickly as I could.
Yeah,
that was it's weird. I'm so happy that the movie was, that we were able to show to so many people, and then we got got distributed and all the stuff. The things happen with the movie that I never in a million years thought could happen. But it's funny. It's I was so overwhelmed at that time. It was I wasn't ready for it in that moment, and so life is complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you said something similar with when or maybe not similar, but when OKKO came out and you were doing the press and everything. You said that you weren't there emotionally present because you're just okay, we did this, the show's out, but the going to Comic-Con or whatever, this is just the beginning of it, etc. And that you kind of wish that you were a little bit more present, and and you put those feelings and everything into the show and the finale. So
that's really funny that you mentioned that, because that's the first time I've drawn that connection between these two once in a lifetime events,
right?
Where it's these two, it's just I think I'm just physically, what is this really about? It's well, I'm a person who's almost destructively incapable of living in the moment and savoring the moment, and I'm always just thinking about the next thing or the goal or the future, and that's what AJ's about, isn't it? That's what that movie's about. Les and I, maybe one day I'll figure it out. But yeah, you're the first person to draw that connection between those two things. Which is, it's the same though,
Yeah. There's also a lot of people that are the work speaks for the work in a lot of ways when it comes to doing the extra stuff that comes with it. Of well, how'd you feel making this? Well, how you feel about it? Watch it, read it, look at it. And I know a lot of creatives that are like that. Just the thing, the thing. Look at the thing.
Yeah, not to bring back that Jim Henson comparison, but he was like that too, where it was he walked away from the Muppet Show, even though it was the most popular show. It was just okay, I'm done with it. We're done with this show. We're wrapping it up after 4 or 5 seasons, and then we're just doing we're doing Dark Crystal and Labyrinth.
Dark Crystal and Labyrinth do kick fucking ass though.
Yeah, that's true.
They are really good. Yeah, they're really good, but they're not popular at all. Everybody was confused and annoyed by Dark Crystal.
Sometimes you gotta make something that confuses and annoys people. I think.
That's cool as fuck.
Put that on my gravestone. Sometimes you gotta make stuff that confuses and annoys people.
I'm certainly with you there. Look, and I think that the other thing to connect with all of this when it comes to the themes of the movie and all these experiences is for me, the making of the movie became another one of these goals that takes over your life where you're not living, right? Because you're focusing on the goal. But it's funny, though, because I would talk to Rebecca about it, and Rebecca had a much more positive take on it, which was, oh, the movie is about all this time that someone loses, and they miss an opportunity to connect deeper with people as a result. And now you were gone and you were dedicating your life to making animation for all this time. And now you're back in Fargo with all these people. And this movie is an opportunity to like spend all this time with all these people and connect with them.
Yeah.
And like, that is such a positive way to see it, when I was seeing it in this opposite way of like, oh, here I am doing the exact thing that the movie's about.
Yeah.
So it's all, hey, it really is all about perspective, it's kind of amazing.
Mm. Yeah. All right. Well, Morgan, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No. This is super fun. I'm so glad I got to finally watch the movie and enjoy it and have a great time.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I should ask, like, how did the Tubi thing work? How does that work? I have no idea how you get something on Tubi, but it seems like literally anybody can put something on Tubi. So how does that work?
You talked about like just like that. I love a homemade movie vibe, right?
Yeah.
Tubi's like the best place. I've seen some movies on Tubi that I'm like, dude, this fucking rules that we just let people do it. Fucking,
dude, our friend Cody, who we were just talking about, he has made many Z
like multiple
movies,
yes, on Tubi
that are on Tubi.
Free Will kicks ass.
Look, I don't know what I am, but I just know that I would rather watch a homemade backyard movie most of the time that comes from a genuine place than most bajillion-dollar movies. That's just like where I'm at. And so when it comes to that, well, what happened was, the movie had this amazing life where it ended up premiering at Fantastic Fest, which is a festival that I didn't even submit to because I didn't think we even had a chance to get in there. And we had our big premiere there, and then we played all these great film festivals. We had multiple distributors who expressed interest in the movie, And so once we signed up with Doppelganger, which is like a sub-label of Music Box Films, once we signed up with them, that's their area. And so, me and Cartuna, who's an executive producer on the movie, who came on after the movie was done, we carved out physicals, so physicals through Cartuna, but Music Box, they handled all of the distribution of the movie outside of in North America, outside the festival context. So they decided where it screened, how long it screened, how it was released, and all of that stuff. So if I remember correctly, the rollout was, we did the tour. There was a small theatrical run. Then there was a rental period where you could rent it on VOD, and then a number of months after that, it was on Tubi. And I think that's like a fairly ordinary pipeline for them. But the funny thing about Tubi is that like Tubi was where the movie was going to end up either way, and that's not just because it's like if we got no distribution, Tubi would have been the home of the movie. And it's just like Tubi is the end position for 90% of movies, and it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful thing. I made a joke when the movie ended up on Tubi where it's like AJ has reached its final resting place, Tubi, and it's like that's a positive thing in my opinion. I think Tubi's the greatest place to discover movies. And so that's just like I think for Music Box, that's just like after a certain number of months or whatever for their movies, that's like where a lot of them go as part of their just like baseline distribution structure. That's really cool.
Yeah, now Tubi has like a fuckload of cartoons.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like that, no, it's just as well because you can watch Tiny Toon Adventures right after you're done watching AJ Goes to the Dog Park.
Foster's Home on there now. Yo, the fucking Oblongs is on there. I got done watching AJ. I'm like, the Oblongs is on there. Like, hold on, I'm about to sit down and have myself a nice night. Okay,
Yeah, there's so much to savor on Tubi. It's like and having the cartoons on there just makes it even better. And here's hoping that perhaps in the future, OKKO and Infinity Train, just to name a couple random shows, also end up on there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, because a lot of people were saying, oh, a lot of this is Boomerang stuff, and in my head, I was immediately like, then where's Camp Lazlo? That was on Boomerang. Where's Camp Lazlo? Where's, etc. Like, yeah, I would love if they put some of those like HBO Max, like Orphans, on there.
It's they've started, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. Just let's look out. If they do it, we'll change our name to Toby Buffoons and
right. We'll just do that instead. We'll just do because shows like I think obviously every show deserves a chance, but definitely stuff like the Fungies and Take and Seek.
Yeah, those shows in particular.
Summer Camp Island. At least that got like 6 seasons and got to like end on its own terms. But it did get jerked around a bunch, I remember. Where like the final season was about to air and then they like delayed it for an entire year.
That was the canary in the coal mine for all of that. I remember when the news came out that they moved the date on Summer Camp and that it had an indefinite pause or whatever. That was the first thing that happened. And that with everything. And the thing about HBO Max, and like we could talk about, that's a whole other podcast, but the thing I'll say about it is, I don't know why we all thought that there would ever be a permanent home for anything ever. Like the idea is like, here we are, our permanent home. That's never been the case for any TV show in history that they've had a permanent home. And like it's a false thing that's possible. And like at the end of the day, it's still the same as it ever was, which is I've got to record Syphil and Ollie on MTV, and that's the only way that I'm going to get to actually permanently watch that show. And the shows, they're just always moving forever. Like that's just the fact of the matter. And it's sad, that these shows can't have. The only permanent home is a physical copy you might own, or a digital file you may have downloaded. Because otherwise they're just going to keep on floating around, and they come in and out of availability forever. It's really just the same as it was when they were on TV. Fucking sucks.
Not to draw any attention to it, but I'm glad that it's pretty easy to download all of OKKO.
Until there's a way that you can give the show money, people would love to give the show money and pay for the show. Until that is somehow an option, then do whatever.
Yeah, do it as you may. I mean, even with me, like I just spent some time downloading a bunch of those like orphan shows and putting them onto a USB stick. So like, I've even been watching through like the first very long season of Summer Camp Island. It's like 40 episodes. I guess maybe it's not very long. My brain is just now broken by like modern TV standards that like, 10 episodes, that's like a pretty good season. But back in the day, like really thinking about it, we would have these super long seasons. I mean, even like Disney shows like Big City Greens, those are, it's 30, 22-minute episodes in the season. That's like pretty good. They're still living in another dimension. Like they're living in the old version of TV, like making that show. And God bless them for that. So, but yeah, I just wanted to ask about the Tubi thing. But yeah, I think that we're all done.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions off the top of my head. It was really fun to rewatch this movie and talk about it and everything.
Thank you for being on, Toby.
Super of course. Hey, it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know when we maybe whenever we get to OKKO, we'll have you back, or maybe for a regular show, if we're doing multiple episodes on that, we can have.
Well, me and Wyatt will argue and fight with knives about it.
Yeah.
I'll get the parking lot. We'll do a Fight Club, the opening of Fight Club, and something.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we'll do the ending of Fight Club too. But
dude, I've just been you this whole time. Kind of problematic, why you're not a black woman, but we'll deal with it.
But all right, Toby. Why don't you plug your stuff? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can. If you've listened to this, hopefully you've already seen Agent Goes to the Dog Park. But if not, you can watch it on Tubi or any rental service. Or the best of all options, you could purchase the gorgeous physical copy that we put a tremendous amount of love into. And you should watch OKKO and Regular Show and Shape Island and Jellystone. You can follow me. I'm Toby Jones on social media. You can check out my Oreo reviews and whatever else I'm up to.
Yeah. Shape Island, very funny. That's one of those shows where it's like, it's very understated humor, but it's, I don't know, just like, so it does kind of remind me of Muppets in a way because of how like, it can be very like witty without being super over the top. But yeah, Morgan, where can we find you?
Hello, you can find me at Girl Next Door on Tumblr. I post about Vampire the Masquerade. I was gonna lie and say the other ones. I don't really. It's Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse. That's pretty much it. I also post art over there. I've been drawing weapons recently because the idea of drawing people has been depressing for me recently.
Right.
Sometimes drawing a head is hard, but sometimes drawing a cool fantasy gun, pretty easy. So I've been doing that, actually. So that's the kind of art you can expect over there. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Girl Next Door also. Mostly talk about wrestling over there, but I am playing around with the idea of drawing another 100 Pokemon before the new game comes out, which is going to be a pain in my ass, but I'm very excited to do it. So look out for that over there. You got to hurry because if you don't, you gotta go through all this stuff with the mayor. You gotta you gotta scrape and you gotta scrape and scrap. You gotta sap. It's a bunch of stuff you gotta get over there. What about you, White?
That does make me think. Like, was it always the intention to just not bother with the scraping and scrapping because those are such nonsensical?
You're the first person to ask that question, and the answer is I think I thought that I would eventually figure something out for those. I thought that I would figure it out, and by the time that I got there, I was like, we're already pretty far into this movie. I don't think we need to do 2 more complete whole segments of stuff before we get to the sapping sequence. So instead I followed my star and did that whole thing with the suit aids instead, and just kind of brushed it off. That's the thing, you're doing it as you go. And I just realized that it's possible my voice has been peaking this entire time. If so, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But you can find me at Waz Ranger, WAZQ Ranger, mostly stream of consciousness stuff, but I do post about videos I'm making and podcasts that I'm doing. So go ahead, follow me on my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, you probably are on my YouTube channel. But yeah, it's only magic. If you want to support it, if you want to get that next episode, which is, we're doing a whole April Fool's month again, but we're doing indie animation this time.
Yay!
So we're doing Deep Space Discount as our next episode.
Sleep.
Yep. We're doing that, and then so next time will be that. So if you want to get that episode right now, donate $3 on the Patreon. If you only got $1, that's fine, baby. You get Welcome Robot, which is me and my friend Wayne going through every single robot in existence and just reviewing them. It's like 5 to 10 minute episodes. It's a good time. There's should be episodes coming out regularly again. We've been recording them every so often, so yeah, it's a good time. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, and thank you, Toby, for coming on and talking about the movie with us, because it was a blast. But all right, join us next time as we talk about Deep Space Discount. See you there.
Goodbye.
On the peak, on the peak, on the peak of my hill to die on.